Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. So last Wednesday was episode 5 of Loki, and it was a pretty big episode. Loki got pruned into the void, and this void is sort of where whenever you prune things, and it doesn't get erased completely by the TVA, it just goes into this really weird place. And there were a lot of things to see. So this video is going to be sort of an analysis discussion, but I'm also going to try my best to point out all the things I saw in the void and what they may mean, or what branch or reality they were pruned from. But let's dive on in. The very first scene of this episode, we get a very interesting camera angle where it's all tilty and turning. It goes clockwise and counterclockwise, and I think that might be a metaphor for the events that just happened that Loki and Sylvie caused, or sort of now causing the TVA to begin turning on its head. And then we zoom up real close on the elevators that lead to the timekeeper's sanctuary, or whatever that was. But on the elevator doors, they have that, what I think is an infinity symbol, which, there was the whole Infinity War thing and the Infinity Stones. Don't really think that's much of a connection, but it could be that, time is infinite, and that's what that could mean. Or maybe whoever actually is controlling the TVA is infinite themselves. So instead of jumping back and forth between this whole length of the episode, I'm just gonna list the things I found in the void right here, and then I'll tune back to my sort of analysis of the episode. So in the beginning of the void, when we're panning into where Loki is located, we actually see the lighthouse of Alexandria. Now, I don't know what timeline this is from. I'm not a history buff. I do like history, but I don't know all of it. I do think either the library was definitely lost. I forgot if it also burned down. So maybe this is from a timeline where it wasn't, burned down, or maybe somebody found the library and that wasn't supposed to happen, so it got pruned. And we also see one of Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. So this could have been from some events that happened in Doctor Strange, or maybe it wasn't destroyed and it was supposed to be, and therefore that got pruned. But as Doctor Strange is about to deal with some multiverse of madness stuff, anything could have happened with that one, I feel like. And later on, we see the pyramids of Giza as well as the Sphinx, and the Sphinx got a nose. So maybe that branched reality was that its nose just did not fall off or weather off over time. We also see what I originally thought was the Avengers Tower, but in this shot, it actually has Kang written on the side of it. But it does still resemble a destroyed Stark Tower. And in the comics, Tony Stark, who is suffering from financial difficulties, which I know is kind of hard to believe, is forced to sell the tower to a Chinese company called Kang Enterprises, which is owned by Mr. Griffin, who is revealed to be Nathaniel Richards, aka Kang the Conqueror. Now, I know this could also be another clue to who is actually running the TVA, Kang himself, but as I myself was real deep into the Mephisto theories with WandaVision, and there was nowhere true to that, I'm a little hesitant with my Kang theories. I do think it's a good theory. Do I think he's the one who's controlling everything? Not yet. But maybe he will, and I'll be surprised. I still think Miss Minutes is real interesting though, and I'll talk about her later in this video. We see a Hydra parasite, or the craft that we see the Red Skull escape on in Captain America and the First Avenger. I like to think maybe this was used or pruned because Red Skull actually survived and escaped in this, and that was not how that was supposed to go, so it got pruned. We see what looks like to be a giant helmet of Yellow Jacket, which was the Ant-Man villain. So maybe instead of at the end when his suit malfunctions and he shrinks, maybe instead he gets real bigger, and that wasn't supposed to happen. We see the Thanos copter, which is from the comics. It's like a legendary thing. And we see a buried Mjolnir, as well as Throg, who is also from the comics. The USS Eldridge drops in, a World War II ship famous for being part of a debunked Philadelphia experiment, where people thought that ship could actually become invisible as it vanished, and no one really knows what happened to it. So it got pruned. That's what happened. We see the Dark Aster, Ronan's ship from Guardians of the Galaxy, was also in Captain Marvel. So I don't know, maybe perhaps in an alternate timeline, Captain Marvel did not destroy these ships, or maybe even Ronan was able to take over the Nova Corps, and that wasn't supposed to happen either. And we see another comic book reference, the statue head of the Living Tribunal, which is the three-headed judge of the entire multiverse, which might be an interesting future Easter egg, as we are about to find out a whole lot more about the MCU's multiverse in the upcoming films. And then last thing that I could spot was the crashed helicarrier with a Hydra logo. So it took me a while to find this Hydra logo. At first I thought it was just a crashed helicarrier, and maybe that was from a branch timeline where Captain America and Tony Stark, Iron Man, weren't able to save the helicarrier in Avengers. Was that the movie it was? Avengers, I think. And it crashed, and that wasn't supposed to happen, so they pruned it. But now I'm thinking maybe this was after Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where he failed to stop S.H.I.E.L.D. / actually Hydra from, coming to power, and all those helicarriers that were in that bunker area didn't get destroyed, and that's what that was from. But now, back to my analysis. And I have to say, one of my new favorite characters is Alligator Loki. Like, the fact that Crocodile, Alligator Loki, whatever, got more screen time than President Loki. Also, the way he just, slid down. He's so cute! Okay, but now back to the TVA where Sylvie momentarily kidnaps Ravonna. I still don't trust Ms. Minutes and the way she can understand Ravonna's unspoken signals. Kind of makes me wonder, is there a way that Ms. Minutes can sort of get into other people's heads and know what they're thinking? Especially because everyone at the TVA, their memories are already they've already had their head messed with, basically. Maybe Miss Minutes is the one who does that. But then after Ravonna asks Sylvie this,
do you have any good memories? Just one, really.
Sylvie responds that she has one good memory. And then she prunes herself, which is wow. But I wonder if her one good memory involves Loki and her together. And that gave her the courage she needed to prune herself so she could go to this void and find Loki. But we get to see a lot of classic Loki, and he gave us this really, really interesting piece of information.
I cast a projection of myself, so real, even the mad Titan believed it, hid as inanimate debris.
So some fan theories actually became canon, at least on another timeline. But perhaps this story could be some foreshadowing for the future. Assuming Loki defeats whoever is controlling the TVA, perhaps he may go back in time to stop himself from dying at the hands of Thanos. This may be unlikely, but it could still be used in the finale of the season. And then boastful Loki betrays the rest of the group of the 5 Lokis, and Alligator Loki bites off President Loki's hand, and I feel like that's a direct parallel to when Thor lost his hand, or the illusion that Thor lost his hand. And I just gotta ask, I love Mobius and this whole moment with the pizza car, but how does the car Mobius takes still have gas in it? Also, another thing I found interesting about Alioth, the weird cloud tempest thing, monster in the sky, is that when he prunes, is that the right word? Because they've already been pruned. I guess when he devours the sailors from the World War II ship, USS Eldridge, the sailors' screams have the same glitchy effect as when people get pruned by TVA hunters. And we know that pruned timelines go from this orange liquid thing to a weird purpley smoky substance, and then that prunes the whole timeline. So I wonder if maybe that purple substance actually comes from Alioth. Obviously, they're all connected somehow. Alioth is the big guard dog for whoever's really behind the TVA and that weird dimensional thing we see. But I wonder if part of his power is also stored in those little detonator charges, and that's what really is able to prune the timelines and the debris of the timelines and people and objects. Just a thought. And I have to give it to my girl B15. Her sass in this episode, I am here for her, and I hope she has a really great role in the finale.
Disloyal to who?
You were in the Timekeeper's chambers. They weren't real. That changes everything. Killing the Timekeepers. But they turned out to be fake in case you forgot.
And I feel like she's gonna do her own thing, and maybe she'll get to live her happy life again. I hope so. I'm hoping that for her. And I thought the little dialogue / teenage like blanket thing was really cute. And for the people who say that their relationship is kind of like gross, I don't really get it. Like, what's so gross about caring about each other, and like loving oneself? Like, yes, I understand she's just like another version of Loki himself, but like in no other way are they related. It's just like a beautiful friendship, and it's the first time either of them have experienced something so real. So like I wouldn't make a big deal out of it, basically. And like part of this series is literally Loki learning to love himself. So they picked this weird metaphorical way, but technically these two Loki variants are as far from each other as they could be. Also, frost giants don't get cold, so smooth, Loki. Real smooth. Also, look at his face here. My man's got it bad. Let me just say. Also, this series is literally a dissection on who Loki is as a character. And I think we've learned a lot. And we've had a big character arc in only 5 episodes. Loki went from being a pompous villain who only wants to be loved and admired. He didn't want to end up alone. And a part of him didn't think he deserved love. And we learned that he acts, this villainous way to hide all those other feelings, which isn't really healthy, but like, that's what his character was. But he turned into this kind, self-aware, caring man who has learned that he does deserve love and can love himself. And in order to be loved, he has to show love. And we see him go through this character arc twice. Once throughout the whole MCU movies and series, and now in this Loki TV show. And we get an emotional scene between Loki and Mobius.
The TVA. Burn it to the ground. Thanks for the spark.
And we also get a callback to episode 1 with the burning the TVA to the ground and how Loki was actually the spark for it. Also that hug between Loki and Mobius. Yes, he has friends now. I have to say though, the most epic scene in this episode was classic Loki's illusion of Asgard. Like, my man is powerful. And in the end, he did achieve his glorious purpose, as all Lokis sort of dream of achieving. It's like their life goal, basically. Although, notice his glowing hands at the end here when he's facing Goliath, like head on, but nothing else really happens. Like, no other illusions pop up. So perhaps classic Loki was able to escape death yet again. Although as he seems to sort of be shedding a few tears here, I'm not so certain about that. But Loki and Sylvie, they do it. They enchant Goliath and they open a doorway into what looks like the end of space and time. So next episode we get to see who's really controlling the TVA. The man behind the curtain, if you will, as that was referenced quite a lot. And my Wizard of Oz vibes I was getting in my earlier analysis. Yes. And I had an interesting thought that also goes back to why the TVA always want so many Lokis to be pruned and why they want Loki to always die. Literally, if a Loki tries to fix himself or if he lives when he is supposed to expire, they get pruned. And my thought is this, and it's gonna take us back to the ending of the first Thor movie. If I've analyzed the trailer correctly, I believe we do or are supposed to see a Loki from the first Thor movie, but we haven't seen that Loki yet in the series so far. And how at the end of the first Thor movie, Loki lets go of Thor and sort of falls into what this black hole thing is, or perhaps he fell into a void. And what's at the end of time? A void. That's where they all are now. And what's through the void? That weird castle thing. Which kind of reminds me of like an odd version of Dracula's castle. So not sure if that vibe is supposed to mean anything or not. But basically what I'm trying to say is, what if Loki fell into a void And instead of going to Thanos, like he did at the end of Thor 1, this void led to the void, the one that leads to the end of time. So what if he, a variant of Loki himself, created the TVA? So when they pull back the curtain, it's just another variant of himself. And yes, it could still be Kang or another version of Miss Minutes, but I wouldn't knock out the other Loki theory either. I'm assuming he's also aged, so he might not look exactly like Loki, but perhaps an older person. Maybe even classic Loki, with maybe he faked death again so he could go back to his castle, Loki's castle. That's what I'm just going to call it for now. But that was my analysis for episode 5. Most of it was just me trying to find out and pick out things that I saw and could recognize in the void. My analysis on the actual other scenes is a bit short. Sorry about that, but it was pretty straightforward, I think. As for what to expect next episode, obviously I'm very excited because they're gonna find out who's actually who, basically. Will we see a rebellion? Mobius went back to the TVA. He's basically by himself, but he might free B-15 from her little cell. Obviously, there's going to be a confrontation with Ravonna. We still haven't had that other analyst thing answered yet. Maybe another Mobius, maybe a different person entirely. Maybe we'll find out next episode. And perhaps we'll finally find out what Sylvie's Nexus event was. But this has been a roller coaster of a series so far, and I know the finale is going to be a real big bang. So I'm super excited for it. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode, episode 5, in the comments. And did you see anything in the void that I did not see or forgot to put in here? Let me know. Love to hear it. And who do you guys think is controlling the TVA? Who do you think will be behind the curtain? Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more analysis videos. And I also do reaction videos as well. But that's all I got for you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.